Welcome to Toni Time, the talk show for real talk with real people. And I'm the host, Toni Morris. As we said before, I usually have a guest, but when we're dealing with a tragedy, I felt it was necessary that we now begin focusing on that tragedy. And so today's show is going to continue focusing on the tragedy in Connecticut. Now, in previous segments, we talked about gun control, we talked about mental health. This segment, let's focus on healing and moving forward. We know that after every tragedy like this, we've had the skills to get through it. And we're going to get through this too. But we've got to do some things. As a city, as a state, as a country, we have got to do some things. Because although it happened in Connecticut, this is resonating through all the states of the United States of America. People are hugging their children. People are fearful because we now know what happened in Connecticut can happen in other places. So how do we begin healing? We begin healing first and foremost by talking about it. Don't hold it in. Holding things in creates anger. Holding things in creates depression. Holding things in creates anxiety. So we need to talk about it. We need to have different arenas where we're talking about it, whether it's at church, whether it's at school, whether it's during a community event. We need to talk about it. And the ones who really need to talk about it the most are our children. Because again, they've been exposed to something they never expected to be exposed to. When we're looking at children in developmental stages, we have to remember they don't understand this from an adult perspective. They understand it from a child's perspective. And we need to begin talking to them from a child's perspective. Don't give them too much information. They can't handle it. Give them the information they need. Allow your children to talk and ask you questions and you answer their questions. Because when they ask you questions, it's meaningful. This is what they want to know. And that's why it's important to let them answer the question. And I know there's some adults out there who are like, wait a minute, I didn't expect to have to talk to my 5-year-old about a shooting death. But unfortunately, it's happened. And we have to do something about it. We need to talk about it now so it doesn't cause them problems later in life. Who knows? Maybe the gunmen that we have seen in multiple shootings didn't have somebody who they could have talked to. And now we have the opportunity to let our children ask us questions, to address real issues, to prevent this from happening again. We are going to address the issues they have concern about, and we are going to put in strategies. We're going to put in coping skills. We're going to put in stress management. We're going to put in anger management. And if you feel you are not capable of doing this, then guess what? Let's seek out mental health professionals. Let's seek out the people who are trained to do this. It's important. There is nothing wrong with going to talk with somebody about things that are bothering you. Let's get it out. We are a strong nation. We are a strong people. We have been through many things for years and years and years, and then we still come out on top because we're resilient. And right now it's time for us to come together and show that resilience. We have now got to help others deal with this situation. We have now got to help others cope with this situation. We have now got to help others handle the stress that they're going through. As a nation, as a state, as a city, as a town, we now have to do it. We can do it. We've done it before. We now have to really, really dig into ourselves and let our real person come through. It is so important at this time that we do this. Yes, we have all kinds of people who have different perspectives on this shooting, but the bottom line is it happened. We can't take it back. We can't go back and fix it. But what we can do is prevent it from happening again. And one of the ways of doing that is now talking to each other. When we look at each other, we need to see people. We need to know that we are all the same. Because no matter what race, color, creed you are, The bottom line is that we all feel for the children that were lost, the 20 children that were lost, because we can all identify with the feelings and the emotions that those parents are going through. That's what makes the United States such a great country, because this is what we can do. Everybody was touched. I listened to people as I went around, and they're saying, how did this happen? Why did this happen? Now we're going to look at how do we move forward, because that's the important aspect. We have got to take what's happened here and use it in a positive term. And I know you're saying positive. What is positive about this? Well, there are some positive aspects. One positive aspect is that we are now talking about it. Another positive aspect is we have now gotten the attention, again, of our leaders, whether it be state, local officials. We've gotten the attention of our churches. And we're now going to begin focusing on how do we talk to people? How do we begin the healing? And across the United States, tomorrow on Sunday, we are going to have these discussions in our churches. There's no way around it, because that's part of our healing process, talking about it. This is what we do. Now, our pastors, our bishops, all of our religious leaders are now going to begin focusing on this, because as you saw on the news, when this happened, where did most people go? They went to the churches. Because for most people in our United States of America, no matter what religion you belong to, when we have tragedies like this, we turn to our churches. And one significant part of this is that this happened around the holy season, as we prepare to usher in the holidays. This is when it happened. And unfortunately, every Christmas from this day forward, there's going to be these memories that pop up with somebody. So how do we ensure that when those memories pop up, it's not too much of a stressor for them, that they can't cope with it? That's what we need to be focused on. We can do this. We are a strong nation. We are a strong people. And we have the ability to get past this. We got through 9/11. Yes, we still deal with it, but we got the families through it. And we have to do it now, because this is no different than 9/11. We lost 20 children. We cannot continue doing this. We have now got to begin our healing. Another thing we need to focus on is that we have children who have such wonderful potential. I had the wonderful chance the other day of working and judging a senior project. But you know what? Before we go into that, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I'm going to tell you about that senior project, so we can see that we have the audacity, we have the nerve, we are going to move forward. So sit back and stay tuned. We're going to come back in a few minutes. Thank you. Welcome back to Toni Time, the talk show for real talk with real people. Today we're discussing the massacre up in Connecticut. And before the break, I started talking about a wonderful opportunity that I had recently. Remember, we're talking about moving forward. So let me give you a little bit of what our children can do. Now, I said I had a wonderful opportunity a couple of days ago. I was able to judge senior projects for a group of seniors who will be graduating this year. It was a wonderful experience. With all the negativity we hear about our youth, this was something that just touched my heart. We had 4 kids that presented to my group that night. They ranged from topics of marriage and family counseling. Another one wanted to be a veterinarian. Another one wanted to be an actuarial. And another one wanted to be a physics. This is what our children are doing. And the presentations that they put forth, they put their technology in it. They had their PowerPoint slides. They put their artistic sides, because they all had to develop a product and present the product. And then they put their public speaking side, because they spoke to people who they didn't know. They also had the professionalism, because they had to dress and they had to present themselves as a professional. When I left that night, I felt so much joy because I said, yes, this is what our children can do. As I listened to the young man and he talked about physics, I was just blown away. I had a high school student who was also working with a PhD at our local college in physics. He's talking about Fortran and nanos and blood and how it's going to expand. And I was like, wow, this is what our children can do. This is why we need to keep fighting. This is why we have to begin the healing process. We cannot let this destroy us. Our children have so much potential. We need to let them know we have their back. We need to let them know we are not going to let this tragedy stop them. We have got to be there for our children because that's what's most important. And the only way to do it is for us to come together. We have got to come together. No politics. NRA's got to come together. White House has got to come together. Local governments have got to come together. We have got to come together because our future is in jeopardy. This is why it's important. This is why the healing has to begin. We have wonderful children in the United States of America. And don't anybody ever forget that. We have our future. And we cannot let these type of tragedies keep happening. It is our responsibility. And if you're not convicted, you need to get convicted. Because this is important. This is your future, your grandchildren's future, your children's future. This is what this is about. And we now have to begin doing things. Can it be done? Yes, it can. Very easy. We can do this. I am so grateful that I have the opportunity and I have the media to be able to bring this to you because this is important information. We need to start doing some things differently. And this is not something we do just for a short week's time. Because again, when the media is going from Connecticut, people tend to forget. It's not our time to forget. This is our time to make sure we keep a dialogue going constantly to prevent this from happening. We have to protect our children. We have to. During this tragedy, we had heroes also. We had teachers who protected children and put them in closets. And that's important. We always got to remember that the educators do more than just teach a subject. They are our children's protectors. That's what they do. And they only do it because they have the hearts. They believe. They will put their lives in jeopardy for your children. That's what teachers do. We need to make sure we don't ever forget that. We need to make sure that we don't ever forget that on yesterday, we had a tragedy. On yesterday, we lost a total of 28 people. On yesterday, we lost 20 children between the ages of 5 and 10. We cannot forget that. We don't need to forget that. After 9/11, we said we'll never forget. Well, let's apply that to this. We will never forget. It is our duty. This is our time to step up. This is our time to do what we need to do to get this done. So tomorrow and the next day and the next day, we need to continue talking about how we're feeling, what our thoughts are, what stresses we have. And we definitely need to talk to our children. They are our precious jewels. We can never forget that. Because again, if we don't start doing something differently, this will happen again. And we can't continue to lose our children. Their future is too important. We can't do it. I would like to thank you all for taking the time today to tune in to Toni Time. I'd like to thank you for sitting down and listening to what I have said. I hope that something I have said will touch your heart and get you to get motivated to do something, because it's just that important. Again, if you have comments, concerns, please log into Toni Time. Send us your information. Let us know what you're thinking about. And we may have the opportunity to bring you on the show where we can really talk about these real issues so we can keep this dialogue going. I'd like to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And as I said before, let's keep the family members in Connecticut in our prayers. Let's keep them in our prayers, because unfortunately that could be us at any time. This is Toni Morris. Thank you so much for tuning in today.
When you've done all you can and it seems like it's never enough, and what do you say when your friends turn away and you're all alone, all alone? Tell me, what do you give when you're giving your all and seems like you can't make it through? Well, you just stand when there's nothing left to do. You just stand, watch the Lord see you through. Yes, after you've done all you can, you just stand.